everyone, this is Tony Holbein. You are listening to The Revenue Formula with Mikkel and Tony. In today's episode, we talk about the real reason your growth isn't picking up. Your buyer's behavior has fundamentally changed. Why? Because of AI. Enjoy. Before we jump into the show, today's episode is brought to you by Fullcast, the only AI-powered platform that streamlines your entire sales cycle from plan to pay. Customers report up to 80% cost savings, 20% growth in pipeline, and 30% boost in RevOps efficiency. With modules like territory and quota management, routing, and capacity planning, Fullcast adapts to your unique needs, whether you need one solution or an all-in-one platform. Visit fullcast.com, book a demo, and mention the Revenue Formula podcast to unlock an exclusive premium gift just for listeners. And now, enjoy the show. You know, maybe I need to post a picture on what I'm actually looking at right now. There's a ladder in front of me with, boards, on the different steps. And then on those boards is a camera that is kind of wiggly right now. And then below that is a laptop. It's totally crazy. It works. It took me, I think I had to order 10 separate pieces of hardware that I just very smartly, ordered one by one. Oh, I got this now. Piece it together. I need another one.
So two thoughts.
2 weeks.
Two thoughts. Because I also have a crazy setup. I basically have two bar stools with a laptop on, and the other has a very expensive camera on top. And then some children play stuff. We should just take a picture of that, add it to the episode, because YouTube is on fire. People are watching the show more and more, which is kind of saddens me with the quality issues we've had. But now it's actually working. We can add those pictures just so people can see how crazy that is. And we'll definitely do better. That's thought number one. The other thing is it makes me think of those people who buy, that massive solution, Salesforce, hundreds of seats, all the bells and whistles. And then they basically mess it up with a ton of custom objects, opportunities for every conceivable use case, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess.
You really talk about it as if you actually had any clue about it, Mikkel. Really good.
I've just been on the user.
I think you fooled probably 3 people.
No, exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Greg. I was always just a person who said, Tony, Nico, whoever, this is too complicated. I don't even know how to log in. Can you just get this one thing for me out of the whole tool? And they're like, ugh, this guy again. So
I think Mikkel, that's also what's way more.
But that's the segue. That's the segue that's coming. I know you wanted to kind of jump in and say what's way more important is the segue. How we're going to now stitch this thing together. That's the thing. Behavior is changing. Behavior needs to change, and behavior is definitely changing. We have spent so much time this year, and I almost want to just end the episode now, but we spent so much time talking about all the challenges, all the pain, all the struggles of this year. And I think a lot of folks, maybe you and I included, kind of happy it's coming to an end by now.
Yeah, sure, right? But also I gotta say, folks, we need to stop whining. The big whine is officially over. And you know what? Actually whine a little bit more for the next, month. But come January 1st, yes, you will go back to the gym for like 2 weeks and then, leave that behind. But also the other change you're going to make is like stop whining about how shitty things are and it's difficult to grow and blah, 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 blah. And the reason is other folks are actually by now doing it. And another reason is also, I believe that, it's a little bit also what Jaco was talking about. By 2025, I think people in the boardroom won't buy the whole, it's so difficult to grow anymore. I think it's over.
No.
I think it's over.
It's like, that's what you said Q1 last year.
Yes.
Come on.
and back then we believed it because everyone was kind of going to the gutters. But right now it's like, it's over now. Come on, drag yourself out of the mud and then let's go.
And you also have to realize those board members, some of them, they're going to sit in another board where they figured it out and they cannot reconcile. Well, why then have you not figured it out? What's going on here? Something doesn't add up. And I think that's actually, by the way, one of the interesting points. I saw a post from SaaStr, I think a couple of months ago, where they were like, so is growth back in SaaS? It's confusing. I was like, yeah, it's confusing because there's so much happening right now. We still, I think, have the legacy of sales is just brutal, right? It's really difficult. What was it, like some 60% of sales reps, they are not going to end up making quota this year, which is just too much. That's not what you want to have. And efficiency metrics, if you've seen any of those reports from Winning by Design and I think David Spitz, it's kind of like we're still doing growth at all costs. At least for some of the publicly traded companies they run this analysis on.
I think this whole growth at all cost thing, I think it was a great marketing hype, and I think Sam from Pavilion is still talking about it like crazy. But I think we're still all doing it, by the way. We're all doing it just on a sadder budget. You know, the budget is smaller. It's like we're still doing all the same tactics, but we're calling it profitable, efficient growth now.
Yeah, it's marketing rebranding. That's what it is.
That's it.
Oh God, wish I was in that meeting, that brainstorming session. That would have been awesome. But I think that's all. There's all those things that are just, they're not working. They're not great, right? But there's another thing that starts to appear, which is growth is kind of resurfacing.
Yeah.
Like initially, I remember hearing from Snowflake and Datadog and a bunch of those consumption-based pricing vendors that their net dollar retention was dropping. It was like insane to begin with because it was consumption-based, but it was dropping because, guess what? Customers were optimizing their consumption to kind of lower the cost, which makes total sense.
Yep.
That's kind of done now. So growth is slowly coming back. Bessemer Ventures, they basically did a survey of, I think it was Cloud 100. You could see that it looks like let's say the bottom is in terms of the growth rate, and it's now increasing, right? So there are some signs at least that growth might be returning a bit.
No, and then you have, you always used to have those, from 0 to 100 million in, 12 and a half days or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always kind of those crazy companies, right? Boom.
Yeah.
And there was Deal, for example. Well, how did they do it? It just took a global pandemic. And that's how they did it.
Just look for that.
Just do that, right?
You'll get there.
They were always those like, okay, wow, this thing coincided just beautifully with something else that drove crazy demand, and then everything went through the roof.
Yeah.
But, and I think it's really lazy to just, Deal did it. Why can't we? There are plenty of reasons why you can't do it. But I think what's starting to emerge now for me, there are a couple of companies out there that are growing like crazy. And I'm just going to name them actually from who I actually know this. So 11x, yes, they have a churn problem. Yeah, I know they do. But I think it took them 6 months to get to 1 million from 0 to 1. Then it took them another 2 or 3 months to get to 2 million. And since then, and this has been going on for a year, they've been adding $1 million a month. And maybe even more by now, right? So why did, A16Z, so Andreessen Horowitz invest? Well, because of that. They're growing like crazy. So that, let's park that in the corner over there. Next one, Copy AI. We talked to Kyle, but he tripled ACVs and shortened sales cycles and improved conversion rates. And they're on a trajectory to triple or quadruple or something like that crazy. Yeah. So I can only imagine they probably are like at 5 or 10 million and now going to end the year at maybe 40 million, something completely insane. And then very recently, I saw Cursor. So Cursor is actually for developers, right? So basically kind of helps them write code, or they have like this terminal where they write code. And Cursor is basically doing this plus AI. And Cursor went from 1 million last year to 65 million ARR this year. Like, think about it. This is not, suddenly everyone needs to stay home and Zoom. Everyone now knows what a Zoom call is and everything goes through the roof. No. This is something different. People have been writing code for ages now, and they just come along, have a different coding app. Yes, AI is in there. Yes, and we'll be talking about that. But they went from 1 million to 65 million in the course of this year, right? So it's starting to be increasingly hard. And those are just the top brass that I know about. And then there are plenty of other examples. It's just getting increasingly hard to say like, well, sorry, we can't grow. Yeah. And probably the board member that sits in your board, that also sits in another board, is like, well, I'm not so sure anymore. I think other people can pull it off. Why can't you pull it off?
I mean, we're going to talk with Peter Walker from Carta fairly soon. They do a lot of surveys and reporting on, let's say, VC rounds and all that stuff. I'm sure he will also be able to help us shed some light on what is things normalizing a bit or improving. Because the other thing I've at least noticed is there are a couple of IPOs getting ready, right? So Stripe, for one, is slowly getting ready.
So crazy that they're not public yet, by the way.
Yeah, it is crazy. But you know what? If the market has not been in favor of that, then it makes sense, right? But so at least those, it looks like the IPOs, they're back. It looks like we're slowly minting more unicorns, also something that would be great to hear from Carta. So let's just say it's confusing, right? It's confusing. Growth is expensive, but growth is returning. still a lot of folks, they won't hit target. A lot of sales reps, they're going to miss.
And I'm going to mess you up here one more time, actually. A couple of people listening on him now say like, well, Manny from Outreach just stepped down. He's not the CEO anymore. Salesloft, they kind of merged with Drift. They're shedding people like crazy, shedding customers like crazy as well. There are a bunch of companies out there that have been at the threshold of IPO and now missed it. It's over.
Yeah.
This game is, Salesloft will not go public. Outreach will not go public. This thing is over. And there are a couple of others there. And, I think it's easy to still find the losers in the market and point finger and say kind of, hey, see also them. But it's just not the majority anymore. It's not. There's a lot of companies going in the right direction. And I think this is what you need to be focusing on.
Yeah. So, irregardless,
yeah,
it's confusing out there. And you confuse me a bit. But it's confusing out there, right? Because you have all these challenges with sales reps even going to hit target. Efficiency is terrible, but you're still seeing growth return, right? So, what can we do? What can the listener do? I think we should talk a little bit about what exactly has changed. Yeah. Because of all places, I found a hint as to what is actually happening, what is going on at the moment for you to end the whining. And I found it in a Salesforce annual sales report, which is just, that's what it is. There was a really good explanation, I at least found, for why it's difficult and why it's confusing out there. Buyer behavior and expectations have changed. Fundamentally changed, right? And we don't want to spend time going into the whole, hey, how can we add more value and blah, blah. What we're going to do now, I think we're going to run through just a very quick couple of points, what's changed over the last, let's say 6 to 12 months. We're going to flash through that real quick, and then we'll get to the main course of change.
Let's go.
So, I mean, if we're going super fast about it, it's no longer singular buyers, it's buying committees. There was a time where you probably, the minimum approval amount needed was a lot higher, at least, than it is today. Now the CFO involved in every single deal. You have such different variety of folks involved in deals, and they're going to care about very different things. And that just makes it difficult. It means it takes longer. You getting those people into the meeting and getting the demo and deciding and a business case and all that stuff.
I would even say, and this is different from different company sizes, but I would even say up to 100 million or something like this. It's feeling a little bit like it's not necessarily a buying committee. It's feeling like it's really only the CEO and the CFO that buy stuff.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is kind of messed up by now, right?
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yes, we've been whining about RevOps having a hard time, buying things, but we very, very often went to the CRO and the CRO was like, hey, this is great. Let me talk to, CFO, CEO, and then the deal died. We just recently saw a post from Chris Walker talking about his last 8 opportunities or something like this. And whenever the person was CEO or CFO was closed one, so he had 4 opportunities closed one with those 2 on there. And whenever the persona was CMO, VP demand gen or whatever, closed lost. Yeah. So he's basically making the point that even and he's like a demand gen guy, right, on LinkedIn and so forth, even when it's super point on for what he's doing, the places where he actually, ends up selling stuff is with the CEO and the CFO.
Yeah.
Right.
But n equals 8 in this case. Let's not forget.
Sure. Yeah. 8. But it's just those breadcrumbs, right? And then you have the other thing with Kyle Coleman from Copy AI, who basically pivoted the whole thing around and sprinted to the top of the pyramid, selling to C-level, right? And that then achieved higher ACVs, higher conversion rates, faster sales cycles, and so forth. So, whether or not he's, selling to CMOs or CROs or something like this, I think many times he's probably selling to CEOs and CFOs. And I think that probably might also be one of the reasons why these stats coming out of Copy AI are so impressive.
Yeah. So, I think the other interesting thing that's, by the way, also happened in this entire process that's not been talked about is because of this focus on cost, you're basically now seeing vendors specialized in helping you reduce cost. So you have tools that will monitor your software stack and the usage of, basically will identify shelfware that you can then go and cancel, right? Great solution. And it definitely fits in this time that we're in. If it was 4 years ago, people go like, we don't really need that, do we? It's like, let's just go, spend our time on something else. So that's one side. And on the other, you have folks helping you secure the best deal on software. right?
Yep.
Actually getting the best price. We've had transparency, I think, for a while, and people can lie and fool themselves and say, well, we don't have pricing listed, but it's just a Slack message away on Pavilion. I think those forces combined with a lot of other things, it means a couple of things. It means that the buyers, they're risk off. They don't want to take the risk anymore because of the times we're in. So basically it's risk off, and the buyers, they have more cards on their hand when you enter a negotiation to basically close software deals, right?
Yeah.
So I think on the buyer side, a lot of things have actually changed to that end.
I would even say that some of the magic of buying software has just ceased working. So I feel there was a time where if you either had a problem or didn't have a problem, and someone brought a software solution, it was like, oh yeah, cool, that sounds like great. Yeah, that solves the problem apparently. Let's go for it. Let's try it out. We can still throw it out next year. And I think that has changed a little bit. That buyer behavior has changed. I think the magic of SaaS to be the solution to everything, and I'm not talking about the delivery method, but just how people are thinking about this solution space that they want to apply to their problem space. I think that magic has changed a little bit. Yeah. And I think, I mean, we both know where this magic thinking has now shifted towards.
Let's hop into it because there's a new buyer. And if you haven't noticed, it's an AI buyer, right? It's an AI buyer.
And you don't mean an AI agent?
No,
that's
I mean
buying
like
stuff.
it's an artificial intelligence that requests a demo and hops on the meeting and then decides to buy the thing. No, of course not. It's buyers who are looking specifically for artificial intelligence to implement at the business, right? So why is that the case? Why is that happening? You and I spoke with Jaco van der Kooi, and one of the things that really stood out was the rate at which it's improving. It's 4x every single year.
Yeah,
I think it was something like that. And by the way, before you jump in, Tom Tungus also kind of published something around just the cost of using AI is decreasing rapidly as well. So while it's improving, it's also getting more cost efficient.
Yeah. So I mean, what's pretty crazy, right? When you think about something doubling every 6 months. So first of all,
which was my portfolio.
In a year's time, next lifetime. In a year's time, yes, it quadruples, right? It doesn't go from 1 to 2, it goes from 1 to 4. That's kind of pretty straightforward. We still okay, we kind of get that. And then Jaco was just pointing out, Tony, after 10 years, where do you think, how many times would it actually improve? And, I don't know what I said on the podcast, but maybe I said like, oh, it's 1,000 times or something crazy. Like even when I said it, I was like, probably wrong anyway. No, it's actually 1 million. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. If AI keeps, or the performance or the quality of the output, whatever the fucking measurement is, if that keeps doubling every 6 months for 10 years, which basically is a thing that has happened with Moore's law on compute power, or the size, it needs to kind of does the same compute, then it would get to 1 million-fold of improvement over 10 years, which is absolutely mind-boggling. If you wanted to even try and visualize this, what you need to do is you need to take a pizza, you take a knife, and then you need to cut it into 1 million pieces, into 1 million slices, and then you take one of those slices out and say like, this is where we are today. The rest of the pizza is where we're going to be in 10 years from now.
And it's going to taste real good.
Isn't this insane?
Crazy. Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows if this can continue for 10 years, blah, 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 blah. But what I think we're trying to say is the rate of improvement is absolutely nuts. Yeah. It's completely crazy.
And you're going to see some moonshots. I was thinking about the other day, before the .com bubble burst, basically. You saw all kinds of crazy startups emerge, like doing God knows what. A few of them still standing today, like Amazon for one, but a lot of them, they're just gone. They were never like a fit for this world to begin with, and new ideas have spawned on the back of that. Kind of to, I think Jaco's point was like, could you have predicted Uber Eats if you couldn't predict Uber? And it's like, well, no, it's chain of events that needs to unfold. Anyway,
going with this, Mikkel. I lost you. Kind of, you're down the street now.
But anyway, so that's kind of one side, the improvement and cost efficiency of AI, right? The other is at the spend on AI next year projected to be around $340 billion.
Yeah.
340 billion. And the year after, double, by the way. Just think about that for a second. Double. It's absolutely staggering. And speaking of that Salesforce survey earlier, there was also a little nugget in there where 78% of sales leaders, they were afraid they were going to miss out on this AI train,
Yes.
right? Basically left on the station. So there's a lot of attention on AI from the buyer side.
There's a lot of attention. There's a lot of money. And, just to put these things into perspective, right? I think the total software market right now is around 650 billion.
Yep.
Total software market right now, 650 billion. I think your number was like 350, 375. I'm not sure if it's 2024, 2025. But that's where we are already, with just the AI budget. And then that's going to double and basically exceed the software market as a whole in a couple of years from now, right? And the reason, and this is also, again, the reason why people are so excited about it, this is why there are kind of all these buyers out there. The reason is not anymore, I don't know, digitalizing kind of the, the pen and paper or the chalkboard that you used, or the calculator that from Texas Instruments you used. No, it's not doing this anymore. It's actually now coming after people. It's coming after the $10 trillion people market on services and stuff, right? That's why this thing is, seems like it's growing like crazy in comparison to software, but it's not crazy growth comparison to a $10 trillion service market, right?
No.
So that's why the trajectory are so completely different. They're going after two overall market ceilings, and then the AI stuff is different there, right? And I think this is also the reason why all of those companies are plowing money. I'm not talking about Meta and Google and OpenAI. They're kind of building those frontier models and doing all of that, legwork. I'm talking about, the normal, Coca-Cola or I don't know, whatever company that lives around the corner. They're pouring money into this as well because they are basically seeing, hey, there's an opportunity for us to cut costs dramatically.
Yeah.
They don't actually know how yet. Like that's a big whole other kind of can of worms, and you can laugh about that. I'm sometimes laughing about it, but there's a very big investment going in this direction. And to a degree, I think what is driving some of their thinking is like it's way more expensive to miss out on the wave than it is to place those bets and then it doesn't work out, right? Kind of if you have a competitor set and one guy doesn't invest at all in AI, and the other one does, and let's just say $100 million for them is like peanuts anyway, or whatever they're investing. If this AI thing doesn't work out, one lost 100 million and the other one didn't. Okay, cool. Who cares? But if it does work out, suddenly you're talking, billions in lost out, basically kind of profits for those organizations, right? So kind of that's the thinking, and that's also the reason why there's so much budget basically completely unlocked.
And the question also was asked by Tom Tunkas, where is the budget coming from? Where is it coming from? He found a survey from, I think, CIO.com. They had surveyed a bunch of CIOs. And I think it was like 35% of the budget came from software.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing AI today, guess what? The pie just got a bit smaller because now there's like an AI requirement in there. And the other 41% was like, well, it's net new budget. So there's even more money being poured into this thing.
Yes.
And I think just to bottom line this section, I guess, you've got to prioritize AI. You have to do it. If you're really struggling and you haven't done anything about it yet, stop the whine, stop talking, start actually doing some stuff here.
Yes. So what are people doing about this out there, Mikkel?
Yeah, so I think one of the interesting things you mentioned earlier was the whole, hey, people see an opportunity to cut costs with AI. So look at Intercom, right? They were one of the early ones, let's say the early incumbents, to basically move into AI. And they added, obviously, a service agent that can help close support tickets down, right? And the way they're charging out on this is at $1 per ticket closed.
Yeah.
Now, let's just say for argument's sake that it cost on average $5 to close a ticket with a human. So there's potentially some money to be saved. And I don't know
but even that leap in thinking, I think this is the interesting thing that's happening right now, right? Because it's not, okay, if we kind of use your software, we need to switch less between contacts and our humans can process 20% more tickets or whatever it might be, right? And that overall might mean we can reduce the workforce by 15% or we can deliver better quality. And you have all of those very complicated ROI calculations going on. That's not the case anymore. We're now talking, okay, wait a minute. Funny enough, we actually never raised that stat. So how much are we paying per outcome? Like how much are we currently paying humans to deliver the outcome that we want them to deliver? And suddenly they figure out, and by the way, $5 is low. They're probably kind of figuring out that they're paying 10, 20, 15, I don't know what dollars.
Yeah.
Like per closed ticket, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, what do you need to take into consideration? Well, sick leave, holidays, all kinds of benefits, everything around the office space, the supervision, all of that stuff you basically need to take into consideration here. And then in comparison, you get a $1, is it 99 cents or what is it? Something crazy basically, where people immediately be like, okay, there's a massive, drop off here in terms of cost. That seems like something we should try out. And I think by now everyone goes into this not with we plug this in and everything is solved. I think by now people are waking up to the realization that each of these agents, each of these AIs, each of these whatever we want to call them, you do have to treat them a little bit like an employee, right? Kind of, yes, they're super smart. You can plug them in. They learn extremely fast what's going on in the organization. They see the previous conversations you had. They use it as learning material to apply that to their kind of next conversation that might come up. But you might need to give them some guardrails. You need to teach them. You need to tell them what's good, what's bad. And, when a new employee walks through the door, that's not what your expectation is. Your expectation is you're going to onboard them and so forth. Something similar actually also, needs to be the expectation with AI, right? Yeah. And then over time, I mean, yes, maybe this human is going to still do a better job. And this is, if you think support and call center and so forth, already questionable there. Maybe they're going to do a better job. And we've seen horrible examples with some of the AI stuff. But ultimately, is that increase in quality worth the massive drop in cost? And I'm not so sure about this, right? And I think this is what everyone is thinking about right now, and then also applying this not just to the support side, but to sales, to CS, to marketing, to basically all the, large roles, like where you have volumes of people working on stuff.
Yeah. So I think the interesting piece is, and you should check out on growthunhinged.com. There's an article also jumping into this whole, hey, are we moving away from a access-based price, I think is what he calls it, right? So meaning pricing per seat, basically. Are we moving away from that and into charging on the back of outcomes? And you kind of had that keyword also now, Jakob, called PPX, so pay per whatever, image, pay per ticket closed, pay per whatever outcome you're basically looking for. And as I started looking into this, what is happening, it's basically two things. If you're an incumbent, you're going to do a blended approach. You're going to have a per seat based pricing. Why? Well, you have a ton of AR sitting there right now. So if you just eradicate that part of your pricing, you're going to have a problem, right? It's too much of a painful shift to basically make, right? And then you're going to add AI on top with some kind of consumption-based, not consumption, but a outcome-based approach. Salesforce did actually do it on consumption. They did it on chat, so cost per chat, basically. But for most, it's going to be on the outcome. So think of it as AI-generated images, and then you price it out on the back of that. The new entrants, so we talked a bit about 11x, etc. On the surface, it seems like most of them, they do a pure pay-per-outcome approach. I do have a hunch that for the majority, there is some kind of credit system running in the background, which makes sense. You want to have some kind of predictability. And what if, you jump through all the hoops to get them going? They spend, they close 2 tickets and then they never use the thing again. Would be great for the customer, not so great for the business side. So I think those are some of the things that are happening. We can probably discuss at great length who can implement it. Comp plans will definitely get tricky. So what are some of the limitations? I think this is an entire episode on its own. But I think just the walkthrough we've done here, when buyer behaviors change, there are now AI buyers out there, and there's a different way to basically sell to those buyers. That is, I think, some really important signals to pay attention to.
This buyer behavior has changed in a way where they are now also starting to expect that pricing is going to change. Just like per seat was totally the thing, because, you had 10 hammers and you digitalized them, and now you need 10 versions of those 10 hammers. Now it's a little bit different. Now you're kind of actually talking about it in a different way. And therefore some of the, I think they call it the value metric is gonna change. What is going to happen though, I think, is some of the stuff is going to take some time. I think what I'm really impressed by is a company called Pylon. They also just did an Andreessen Horowitz round.
Company, right?
Basically kind of support CS. They're going after the whole Zendesk and equivalent market.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, their pricing is crazy. Everything that Zendesk does, all the software, all the platform stuff, for free. You can take it, like have it. And by the way, what they've built is very competitive. It's very compelling. It's very good software. But they're giving all of this away for free forever. And in return, they're basically saying like, well, we're working on those AI agents and, some of them in use already. Those are the things you're going to be paying for. And they're basically, they're effing the whole support market, actually. Because the reason why Zendesk, to your point, the reason why Zendesk can't do what Pylon is doing is, well, they're a public company. They have probably $1 billion in revenue on this free stuff that Pylon is just giving away. And, their AI revenue is a joke right now. It's probably, maybe 20 million or something like this. I don't know. It's probably not much. And kind of you have this new entrant. It's like, well, I don't have this 1 billion problem, but I would love to have your 20 million problem. So let's do that. And they're doing exactly this, right? So I think, yes, it will be difficult for incumbents. It's going to take some time to make that shift, though. I think it's going to take some time.
I was just imagining the Zendesk earning call where they go like, so, hi, Wall Street. Just FYI, seat-based pricing thing. Yeah, not doing that anymore. We're going to go for the AI thing. And they're like, but it's only 20 million. What are you doing, guys?
But, there's also another thing, right? So a couple of people are saying PPX and then so forth. But for example, if you look at those AI SDRs, like 11x and a couple of others, the real outcome you actually want to pay for is positive replies. It's basically kind of meetings booked or something like this, right? Guess what they're not pricing on?
Yeah, exactly that. But also, and I think this is why it warrants a different episode. It's, well, did we get that outcome because of the AI or something that we did?
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that, and then we'll let it brew, and we'll do an episode just diving even deeper, I think, into this subject, because there's so much to cover, so much to talk about. If you haven't already and you don't want to miss that episode, make sure to subscribe to the show. You can also subscribe on YouTube if you prefer the video version. It helps us grow the show.
Thanks a bunch, everyone. Thanks, Mikkel. See you around. Bye.
Bye.